Hello, Home Service Pros. Welcome to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast, episode number 149. Today, we've got a special guest on the show, Ms. Lynn Wise, founder of Contractor In Charge out of Tampa, Florida. They do inbound answering services and bookkeeping services for home contracting companies. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Lynn.
Hey, thanks, Mark, for having me today.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. So tell us, Lynn, what you do, who you do it for, where you do it.
Sure. So the company's name is Contractor In Charge, and really we have two primary roles that we play for the trades. We do inbound call answering, so our forte is qualifying booking calls into Service Titan. The other part of that is that we will do outbound calls for digital leads, so qualifying and booking outbound leads. On the backside, we are a full service bookkeeping and controller level services. We have 20 degreed accountants on staff, and we only work in the trade space, the home services space. So that is our specialty and our niche. We've been doing that since 2016. We have a couple of hundred clients across the country, and we host about 70 employees on any given day virtually across the country.
Nice. Well done. I see you used to be a co-owner of a plumbing and HVAC company. So talk about your transition from that to where you are now, and what led you to start Contractor In Charge.
So in the first 15 years of my professional life, I was either an employee or a co-owner or a general manager of a plumbing and heating company. I left that business in 1989, honestly, because the ownership model wasn't working anymore for me in that environment. So I went and I worked for Ameritech, which was Yellow Pages. And then I was recruited from there, and I went to work at IBM, and I worked at IBM for 10 years, 11 years. In 1989, I had an idea of centralizing call answering, bookkeeping, administrative type services for contractors. I didn't, obviously. I left. And it was really during my time at IBM that I learned about what shared services were and outsourcing was. And I always thought, look, if the big guys can do it, why can't the little guys? So in 2016, I launched Contractor In Charge. And it was set up intentionally to be a supplemental or a full-time service for the trades in those two key areas. We became Service Titan certified in the last few years, but it was always from the beginning of time that we would be driven by our degrees in accounting and our skill in accounting. So that all being said, it brings us to where we are today. And so everything we do is about what the trades do or need in order to be successful in those two functional areas that we speak about.
Yeah, those are two super important areas, and definitely two areas where they need to hire out two professionals. Was your plumbing company in Florida also, Lynn?
No, not at all. It was in Michigan. It was at the other end of the other peninsula, right? No, it was in Michigan. I actually, when I set up service or Contractor In Charge, rather, it was very intentional that it was a virtual company, so I could live where I wanted to live when I wanted to live where I wanted to live.
Yeah.
So we were virtual when it wasn't cool.
Before virtual was virtual.
Before virtual was
I like it.
Right. That's right. And of course, technology is the primary reason that this is all. We're able to do what we do.
Yeah, we're still working. We just need a computer and we can be anywhere.
Yeah, I think I used Zoom when Zoom first was launched. So we were using Zoom when COVID happened, and everybody else was trying to figure out how to use it. And we were using it every day. So
I like it. Woman ahead of her time.
Well, company ahead of our time. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So were you doing recruiting for IBM also, or?
No. We didn't. I didn't do recruiting. So I was actually a specialist in the telecom industry. So
I
we
see.
did, my primary technology that I sold the telecoms was speech recognition, text to speech, natural language. And that was in the early days of what we now know as conversational interfaces. And so um, it's really, really come a long way. But that is, it's so significant over the last, I retired in '09 from IBM. And so we're looking at what, 13 years or 15 years later, the advancements are tenfold from the day that I started learning it and understanding it.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy now with
Mhm.
Open AI and all the AI companies. So who knows who the winners will be soon? But it is amazing, the technology. We are embracing it wholeheartedly. Absolutely love it. Of course, double-edged sword always with all things, dangerous but also awesome, and
We're
certainly
embracing
can
it
help.
also very much.
What's that?
We are embracing it also.
Oh yeah, it'll just so many things it can do for a small business, depending on where you want to go, what time you have to investigate, all that good stuff. So this is awesome. So Lynn, tell me, when you started the company, did you have a lot of home service contacts at the time, or how did you launch? Like, what was your marketing uh,
Uh,
game plan at that point?
sure. I mean, I had the knowledge of what it took to run the business, and I went to what was then called Comfort Tech, which is now Service World, and I set up a trade show booth and said, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It wasn't meant to be. And
Nice,
I actually still have two of my original clients. They've been with me
nice.
this whole time. And through partnerships, whether it be business coaches or best practices, that's how it all started. And so we have, of course, refined many times how we do things, why we do them, what our purpose is, and things of that sort. But here's what I always tell everybody, and it's really true. When I came back to do this, the good news is nothing changed. The bad news is nothing changed. So I was gone for over 25 years, and it was essentially still the same work operations, the same, a lot of the same methodologies, etc., that we are using today in our practices.
Yeah, so not much changed on the home service contractor side. They were still having problems. So let's talk to that. So missed calls, for us on the marketing side, we probably see that as the number one business problem. I don't care what business you're in, actually. So you don't even have to be home service. I don't care if you're a doctor, a surgeon, whatever. Uh, how much do missed calls cost you?
So I'm
Right. So are your customers aware of the problem and how deep it is?
so I'm going to address this from two angles. Number one, there are a lot of missed calls that are literally just noise. They're in the
Yeah.
network. Robocalls. We're getting ready to go into campaign season. We're expecting a ton of calls that are going to be missed. A lot of marketing calls that happen. And the problem is you don't know how to filter those out. All you know is to let them come to your phone switch and then figure out whether or not you answer it and you're frustrated because by the time you've hung up, you just missed an important lead. So the big
Yeah.
message about missed calls, in my opinion, is that without having proper strategy on how to route calls and filter calls is killing you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other part of that is true is that most businesses don't understand the how to size their need, how to build their capacity right. And a lot of it has to do with concurrency of call and management of the people who answer phones. And so I've really embraced this concept of, in our offices, for what we do in our industry, we really have 4 key roles. We have the role which is to qualify and book request, whether it's an estimate or a service call, anything that has to do that is about qualifying, booking an appointment. The other role that we play is customer care. So those folks that are calling in, they want to check to see if their technician's going to be on time. They want to check if they're on the appointment or on the schedule. They want to check on the parts that were ordered and they haven't heard from anybody. They want an invoice. They want a copy of a bill. They want to talk. The third one is, I call it field, dispatch and field. So you're managing the field. So you're managing more of the scheduling and the field itself. And then the last role is what I would refer to as inside sales. And what I can tell you is that we've been tracking the stats on this for over 8 years now. I started on day 1. How many calls do we receive that are truly leads? And
that are truly what?
Are truly leads, bookable leads.
Bookable
all
leads.
The volume,
Gotcha.
You get 100 calls in a day. Let's just use that number for simplicity.
Right.
Only about 28 to 30% are bookable leads.
Yep.
However, you assign all your resources to do all those things that I just described, plus those.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no distinction of roles and responsibilities. So if you're going to look at this and you're going to try to maximize the return and minimize the cost, you've got to understand you need to have dedicated resources to qualifying booking leads. If you mix that in with everything else, then you're going to get what you got. There's no focus. Some things will get done better than others. And I can tell you, a lot of times, let's just say, those who like to do customer care don't necessarily like to sell appointments. They're not the same personalities.
Correct.
Those who like to manage the field don't like to answer the phones.
Yep.
So you've got a mixed bag of skills and attributes that are attributable to a person's personality and things of that sort. And the best way to do that is to understand the roles and segment those roles. So keep in mind, what did I just say? 28 to 30% of the calls are only bookable leads. Everything else is everything else. Mm-hmm. So think about what I just said. You're paying a resource 100% to really manage the 30%. Mm-hmm. Or vice versa, you have people who aren't skilled or don't want to or don't have necessarily the attributes to do the selling of appointments.
Right.
And by the way, this is nothing new, Mark. This has been this way since the day I've been in this industry. And it's only me coming into this world that I work in, I began to understand why there's such a big disconnect. So I believe the disconnect starts with understanding the roles and responsibilities, assigning focused and skilled people to those roles and responsibilities, minimizing cost, and maximizing the customer experiences.
Yeah, great insight, Lynn. Actually, I've never had anybody explain it the way you did and never saw that myself. And I don't think any of the operators that we have as clients have seen that. So to be clear, a smaller percentage, 20, 30, whatever it may be, less than half of the calls coming in are in need of someone with expertise in turning that call into a booked appointment. They are bookable appointments.
Correct.
So if you're lucky enough to have 2 or more CSR, customer service reps, then one of those need to be trained. That they have to have the personality for it, and then to be trained. Because the booking rate is also a major problem for a lot of home service companies, right? So they keep pouring gasoline onto the fire of leads, let's call it. I want more leads. I need more leads. But they don't solve the problem, which is why we transitioned what we do as a marketing agency also. So they don't solve the problem of speed to lead and then closing that lead, booking that lead as an appointment. So
Well, but
that's really brilliant.
that's one part of it. The other part, though, and again, this is the call center knowledge that I have now, because when I got back into this industry, I was going to act just like an office. Well, I learned really quickly I couldn't accomplish it and make any money. So I said, I'm not going to do that. So I had to take a step back and I had to learn the metrics and the configurations of a call center. A call center doesn't work the same way that an office phone works. It works on what's called capacity and utilization. So when we are taking on new clients, and it's no different if you're a single operator and you're managing 100 calls or 30 calls. It really doesn't matter. There is a very elaborate equation that is used to calculate how many agents you need on for the volume that you receive in the intervals that you receive them. So
very good.
So you could have one CSR who's trained, let's just say. By the way, on what we see on average for office staff to handle calls, for booking calls, you're looking at 4 to 5 calls per hour. So think of what I just said. So if a person works 4 to 5 or does 4 to 5, let's say they do 6 calls per hour. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt for booking calls. Then the average person works 6.5 hours a day on the clock, not breaks and lunch gone. That doesn't count the smoking and joking and flirting with the techs and doing all the things that they do, or going out in the parking lot and drinking a soda.
Right.
Okay. So if they work 6.5 hours a day, let's just say 6 times 6 is 36 plus 3 is 39 calls. That's probably about max that somebody can take of calls per day. And that's assuming that each call is back to back to back to back to back.
Right. Not at the same time.
Not at the same time. And so what happens, especially when you get peak demand like we've been having now for the last 3 weeks, 10 calls at a time is not unusual.
Yeah. You're speaking like because of the heat and HVAC and things like that, maybe, or rain and roof problems or whatever.
If you got rain or you've got freezing conditions out there, that's all the same thing. And it's very normal. We try to prepare the best that we can. What I will tell you that we're seeing, and we're experimenting with it now, is bots. And I'm not going to call them AI bots. I'm going to call them conversational bots. Are absolutely one of the key pieces to the puzzle where you can answer 50 calls at the same time.
Right.
That doesn't mean, though, that you can design it the same way you design your office. You've got to design it as I prescribed. So what's going to book? What's everything else? And everything else needs to be spoken to in the bot and managed in the bot. Things that are bookable need to be handled by an agent. And let me give you the primary reason today. Not that a bot can't discern qualifying questions. It can, and it learns them. It cannot book that appointment in the software. There aren't.
In service type, in some software, yes.
Or House Call Pro, doesn't really matter. It's not a bot that books in it directly.
Right.
So
not yet.
Yeah, not yet. It will happen, but as of today,
very soon, actually.
Yeah, it's not there today.
Right.
And there's still a lot of iffy things about it, but it's getting closer and closer and closer and closer, which says, okay, what do I do with my people if this bot can do what it does, right? And the answer is that you're going to spend more time building customer value and actually selling to building more loyalty in the customer base that you have.
Yeah.
So you will need to reevaluate and reconsider your resources and your skill sets, because it's going to change the way that you staff. It will not
exactly.
reduce the need to staff. It will change the way you staff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you allocate the resources differently. That's all.
Correct.
And
And you
it's,
train differently. You have to train them differently. You have to train
100%.
Yes.
Is your team using AI conversational bots?
We are.
Yeah.
We are no bots. We've done it as a backup to us because, on one, I'll give you an example. I have a client, normally gets 15 calls a day, got 682 calls in one day.
Wow. Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
I can't
You don't want to lose.
We can't handle it. There's no call center in the country that can handle it. None.
Right.
And there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. I see it constantly on Facebook that it's always the answering service's fault. And I would say, not so much. You've got a demand issue. You need to understand where your demand's going to hit, and you need to manage that demand.
Yeah, I like that a lot, Lynn. So let's. So you covered a lot of things there. Let's unpack a few of them and isolate them. So, and that's a key one, I think. So if we're planning a big marketing campaign, right, then we need to plan with our CSRs, or maybe add personnel, or maybe drip that campaign over time. Lots of variables, potential actions we can take. So speak to that a little bit. We're not, because I can definitely say that I don't see that happening. So I don't see teams planning for the marketing campaign that's about to unleash, and then poof, the CSRs are overwhelmed, and then once again, we're leaking leads through our bucket, right? So talk to that planning.
Well, but you pretty much nailed it. You need to be more strategic, and you need to be more thoughtful on how the process is going to work, so you don't leak leads. We'll get this happens to us frequently. We all have clients, and let's just say Friday normal, Monday they blow up. We will go, what's going on? Oh, our marketing department released a direct mail piece or an email drop or a voicemail drop. And rather than thinking about the impact on that, on your resources and the customer experience, you just expect it's supposed to happen. Well, here's the news. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So you have to take a step back and go, okay, let's just say the marketing campaign is a tune-up special. That just seems to be a very relevant one. You need to look at it and say, okay, of that strategy, how many leads do we think we're going to get above and beyond what our normal calls are? And you need to resource that in advance, not on the day of.
Yes, exactly. Plan a little and drip out the campaign. So it's funny you brought that up. We're doing an AC tune-up campaign for one of our clients right now.
Yeah, and Mark, I think that's probably one of the more significant things. Instead of doing a whole bunch at once, do a little every day, a little every week. Become consistent and sustainable versus trying to do everything at once and then having the other. I'm going to also make one other comment. So let's play the world out perfect. Let's say that you get a bunch of leads, you get them. The next thing that I will tell you is the biggest black eye. You don't have enough capacity to do what you just marketed for.
Yeah.
So
not only in
plan.
Right.
Plan.
And not only in the receiving of the calls, right, and the training of the CSRs on the topic of the campaign, of course, and all that good stuff, but also in, how you're going to schedule that out, right?
Execution.
Yeah.
Execution. And by the way, this is a disease in this industry. We're so transaction focused that we don't stop in planning. So.
Yeah. So the lesson learned there is drip out campaigns, like the ways around it. Prepare your team, train your team.
Be ready.
Bulk up the team if possible. And really maybe back to that point one is to drip out that campaign. Like if you're doing a direct mail of whatever 100,000 pieces, hey, do 10,000 a week for 10 weeks or something like that. Scale it back so so the team can handle it, right?
Well, and here's just as a third party service provider. Don't forget, we're part of the team.
Yeah,
You can't
exactly.
prep your internal team and not prepare your partners. And so, it's been one of my struggles since I've come back to this industry to integrate as a partner versus just a vendor.
Right.
And so we see that also. But yeah, those are things that I believe could really help the operator.
Mm-hmm.
The operators planning, understanding the strategy, training, and resourcing properly would change a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. And, I was just guilty of forgetting you, not you, Lynn, but your service. As we were talking about all that stuff, where we were talking about the internal team, and I forgot to say, oh, yeah. So if you have a incoming answering service, it's best to include them in on your plan, so your marketing plan. So my apologies, but I'm guilty of what probably every home service company. So I've prepped my team and I've done everything properly, except I forgot to tell my answering team.
And we're never
by the way,
told.
Yeah. Really good.
Just so you know, Mark, I only have 1 minute. I got another meeting.
Oh, yeah, no worries. So how can our people reach you,
Sure.
Lynn? How do they reach you?
Definitely just search on the web or go to contractorincharge.com. We have a Facebook page, contractorincharge.com. My email is lynn@contractorincharge.com. We are real easy to find, I hope, and we'd love to connect with others that are interested in learning more. And one of the things, just so you know, Mark, I'm very conscientious of the operator, their role in this process. My objective is not to make this a lesser of a worse process. It's to improve the process, which is why I've spent a lot of time thinking about how to improve it for them, as well as how can we be part of that improvement process.
Yeah. Well, it shows, Lynn. You've covered some things that nobody else has talked to me about. Also, for the audience out there, if you hit her website, contractorincharge.com, there is an ebook she offers. So if you're thinking about selling your business or preparing your business for sale, is that a free ebook?
It is a
Lynn?
free ebook. One thing I'll say real quick. Any business should build themselves as a valuable business, as if they're going to sell, regardless if they're going to sell or not. So I'm a big proponent of to help you show you how to build a valuable business. And by the way, if you're going to exit, guess what? You're ready.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you're not going to exit, just having a business that runs without you being there 24/7 would be a nice change for most people out there.
Absolutely.
Lynn, you're awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Bye.
Appreciate you coming on the show. We'll talk to you again.
Bye-bye.